Attention, the following broadcast has been approved by Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, it's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. I just want to start off by saying it is great to be back after not doing a review last week. Unfortunately, I had some family situation go down. I'm not going to go into detail about it on here because I would just like my privacy to be respected in this time. So that's unfortunately why there was no review last week for Monday Night Raw, but we are back and we are here to do the review for this week's Raw. So this is the Raw going into Crown Jewel, so there's a lot of juicy stuff going on that leads into the pay-per-view, so let's get straight into it. So we started off this week by seeing the Crown Jewel title yet again arriving to the arena, and this follows on with the arrivals of the Judgment Day, and Seth Rollins has made his presence known as well too. We get to see a little bit of backstage and clips coming from previous SmackDowns and Raw from last week. So we got to see the clip of Jey Uso and Braun Breaker having their Intercontinental Championship match, which obviously we saw the Bad Bloodline come in and cost Jey Uso the Intercontinental Championship. Then we ended up seeing the clip from SmackDown as well too, which was where the Bloodline was going up against Motor City Machine Guns and they lost the tag titles because of the Bloodline coming in. When I say Bloodline, I mean Jimmy, Jey and Roman. Bad Bloodline is obviously Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. First thing we actually get to see happening on Monday Night Raw this week is Jey Uso making his way out to the ring after losing the Intercontinental Championship. He makes his way through the crowd and he starts off by saying that main event Jey Uso is now in your city. He talks about how a lot has happened in the last few weeks and he's obviously lost his title. There's a lot of drama going on within the family and he had to retaliate and go over to SmackDown to retaliate because of that. So I'm just going to realign my camera. He said that he went over to SmackDown and retaliated and costed the Bloodline the tag titles, and he said there's only one Uso that I want to talk to, and I was thinking he was going to ask Sami Zayn to come out, but if anything he actually had Jimmy Uso come out. But Jimmy Uso ends up coming out and he thanks Jey for doing what he did last Friday when it came to SmackDown, and he said that we need to be together to take the family down together, i.e. the Bloodline, and Jimmy says that we are the ones, but Jey says no, and he talks about the WrestleMania match and talks about how he hasn't seen Jimmy since that moment, and that was when him and Jimmy were fighting each other, so things are a little bit iffy between them two still, and he said a lot's happened since then, and people don't confuse us anymore. They know that you are Jimmy and I am Jey. They know you are no Yeet. They know that I am Yeet. And they said that they don't confuse us anymore. We are two individualized people. And he said that he went out and became Intercontinental Champion on his own. But he says that we've got to fix this stuff. And then Jimmy says that the OTC is going to be there on Friday Night SmackDown and you should come and squash the beef with them. After Jey says that he's going to be at SmackDown to talk to Roman, the Bad Bloodline end up coming in and attacking both of the Usos. But by the end of this beatdown, the Usos are getting the upper hand on the Bloodline. Following this, we go backstage. We see Adam Pearce is visibly grumpy and angry on the phone to Nick Aldis talking about the Bloodline. He was basically just not aware that the entire Bloodline was going to be there. He thought it was just going to be Jimmy. He didn't authorize this, and he said that you need to take better control of your roster. Anyway, Judgment Day comes in and they are wanting to know the opponent for Dominic Mysterio going into this match. Now, Dom Mysterio has a match against a former world champion to potentially get a #1 contender spot to go up against Gunther. And Adam is like, you know what? Fuck it. It's Damian Priest. You're going up against him, and everyone's like real scared. But Damian is like obviously a former world champion. He's fantastic in his own right. But anyway, Dom says that he's going to take care of it, but Finn's like, you really need to be careful. There was a reason why we used to call him the Punishment. I know him inside and out, so just be careful. And Dom basically says that he's going to go into this match alone and he doesn't want any help from the Judgment Day. Head back to the ring. We have our first match of the night, which is Ludwig Kaiser taking on Sheamus. Now, I probably missed the fact this was going to be happening. I did not realize we were getting a rematch between these two, but nonetheless, it's a really great match. So Sheamus and Ludwig end up locking up, and Ludwig hits Sheamus with a couple of different blows, and he ends up hitting a basement drop kick and a clothesline onto Sheamus. Sheamus goes for a powerbomb, but then Ludwig ends up reversing this with a guillotine, and they both end up going into the ring steps. Then after the commercial break, we see Sheamus hit a punt knee to Ludwig, and then Sheamus hits up the 10 beats. Then we end up seeing him hit a clothesline from the top rope. Sheamus goes for a couple of different chops. We see Ludwig go for a power bomb, and then we end up seeing a knee kick to the face of Ludwig and a bro kick, and Sheamus secures the win. Really great match, really great first match as well too, to start off the evening. I also just realized, because I didn't do last week's Raw review, I did not have a chance to talk about Samantha Irvin not being the commentator anymore or the ring announcer, and Lillian Garcia coming back. I'm still quite cut about this a week on from the actual news of it. I really liked Samantha Irvin. I liked the personality, the character that she brought to her announcements. I'm sad that she's going to be gone, but I'm really hoping that this is not a goodbye and it's more of a see you soon kind of thing, because I feel like a lot of the WWE universe really like her and really like what she brought to the announcing and made everybody feel super individualized and just really unique with their entrances. With Lillian Garcia coming back, I mean, it's a voice from the past. It's okay, I guess. I just feel like it just, for me, it takes a little bit of getting used to with some people. I know that I was saying this when Joe Tessitore started doing the commentary work on Raw. I'm used to him now, but it's just going to take a little bit of time. And I think a lot of people are like that when you are so used to somebody and you really enjoy what they're doing and they have to just kind of leave out of nowhere and get replaced with somebody new. It can be quite hard to get used to that. So I think it's just a case of me just having to take a little bit more time and adjust to the new person. We head backstage where we've got a little bit going on. So we have a Rhea Ripley video promo, and now this is obviously in response to what happened last week. And she said that she thought about what Raquel said last week, and there is a big difference between us. Your betrayal was completely calculated, and it was just full of ego. I've made mistakes, I'll own up to them, but it seems like you two want to be a part of your Cry About It squad. The only thing that I want is that title back, and you're going to have to kill me to stop me, which... love you, Rhea, as I always say and do. Then we see Jimmy and Jay talking backstage, and they're walking through the backstage area where they actually bump into Sami. And Sami asks if he can talk to Jay privately. And then we end up seeing Jimmy walk up to Sami, and he's like, oh, I just want to talk alone, like it's totally fine. And Sami asks what all this is about. He's like, are you just casually fine with Jimmy Uso? He's like, is this seriously it? Like, you're back in with the bloodline, like you're gonna squash this right now. And Sami ends up reminding Jay of who he is and what happened to him and who hurt him, which obviously is Roman Reigns. And he does a lot to remind Jay of his worth. And Sami wants what's best for Jay, and Sami tells Jay not to get involved with this, and this is not his fight anymore. And Jay looks at Sami and says, you wouldn't understand, you're not family, Us. And I was like, no, but he's your friend. And sometimes friends are better family than actual family. We also have a Gunther video package on Cody Rhodes. Now, obviously, this is in preparation for their match that's happening at Crown Jewel this weekend. Gunther goes and calls Cody a gutless champion and references the fact that obviously him and Ludwig are going up against Randy and Cody going into Crown Jewel this weekend. And he said, you'll have to ask Randy what it's like to lose to me with a guillotine or with a chokehold. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent about this match. A lot's been happening in my personal life within the last week and a half, so I haven't really had much time to really kind of dissect everything that's been going on in terms of the build up for these matches. I've kind of just been watching Raw and SmackDown, and I've kind of just been like, okay, cool, I guess. Haven't really been thinking too much into it just because I don't have the mental capacity for that at the moment. We head back to the ring where we have a match going on between Zelina Vega and Ivy Nile. Now, obviously, this is after what happened last week where there was interference from either party within the tag match as well. Zelina slaps Ivy from the beginning, but Ivy ends up picking Zelina and throwing her into the turnbuckle. Zelina's quickness is on display, and she hits a Meteora onto Ivy, and then we have a commercial break. But when we get back, Zelina's in control of the pace. Ivy is showing her power and aggression, and Zelina ends up reversing a couple of Ivy's moves. She hits a really nice moonsault, and we see a suplex coming in from Ivy Nile as well too. And then Zelina ends up going for Ivy's knee. The Creeds end up distracting the ref, and then the LWO and the Creeds start brawling ringside. Ivy hits a swinging Uranagi, and she actually secures the win, which was quite cool to see Ivy get this upper hand on Zelina. I just would like to see Zelina be pushed more. I feel like she can definitely do some really cool things, and I feel like she'd be a really great champion at some point in time. I just don't understand why she's not really getting the push that she deserves. Following this, we go backstage and we see that Jimmy Uso is in the locker room, and Jay comes in and they start talking about the Sami conversation that Jay had with him before. And Jimmy's like, I'm going to go talk to Sami. I want to go and sort this out. And then he's like, well, no, don't do it. But he's like, I do want to talk to him. And we see Seth Rollins is backstage, and he actually makes his way out to the ring after the commercial break. He welcomes everybody to Monday Night Raw, and he starts talking about how he's on the hunt for a monster, and how Bronson Reed has reminded him of what he is capable of, and he kind of likes it. He said this Saturday at Crown Jewel, and then before he gets a chance to say anything, Bronson shows up on the big screen. And he said, look, I'm not here because I don't want a repeat of last week. I don't want any chaos. And he said, look, Seth Rollins, if you are interested in hunting a monster, I'm in the parking lot, so why don't you just come out and find me? Seth Rollins gets out of the ring and he says not to move, big guy. Adam Pearce tries to stop this before it gets too much, and then we end up seeing Bronson and Seth Rollins brawling backstage in the parking lot. There is a lot that happens, so let me go through it as quickly and concisely as I can. We end up seeing Bronson throwing Seth into the car. Seth ends up stomping Bronson on the hood of the car, and then he says the world has forgotten what he is capable of, and that's a reminder, so he starts walking away. And then Bronson ends up getting up, but then Seth Rollins super kicks Bronson. Bronson throws a trash can at Seth Rollins when he's in like one of these like trucks in the back of it. And then we end up seeing Bronson launching himself and Seth Rollins into like a bunch of tables and trash that is outside of the truck, with a whole bunch of security and medics come around to see what's going on. We have a commercial break, but when we come back, we end up seeing like a replay clip of this, and we obviously hear from commentary that they're going to get us some medical updates as soon as they can. Then we end up seeing the replayed clip from R-Truth last week. I don't actually exactly remember off the top of my head what happened during that segment, and then we obviously saw the Wyatt Six after that match go for Miz and Final Testament. Alpha Academy is interacting with R-Truth backstage, and then Miz comes in, and Miz is trying to apologize to Truth. He's like, I'm really sorry, I don't know what happened to me, like Carrion and Final Testament just got into my head. And he starts apologizing, and Maxine's like, look, you don't need to listen to him. And then there's a moment where they have a bit of a hug, but then Truth ends up kicking Miz and and he says, good luck with the Wyatts, you're gonna die. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then he's leaving, and he runs into like Pete Dunne, and he says like, hey Butch, have you seen like Pete Dunne or something? And then Pete gets real grumpy. So like it looks like they're gonna have a bit of an interaction at some point in time. I'm not really too sure, but it was cool to see. Head back to the ring where we have the finals for the contenders match for the tag team titles. So we have Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee taking on the New Day and War Raiders. Honestly, this was a really great match, and I didn't write any notes down, but there were some really good spots that happened during this match as well too. I kind of really just wanted to like sit and submerge myself into this match. I've had a lot going on in the last week and a bit, so sometimes writing down wrestling notes for some matches can be a bit much. I kind of got a bit tired towards this match, so I kind of just really wanted to sit and enjoy this match. All the teams put on a really great performance, and the War Raiders are moving on to go up against Finn Balor and JD McDonough for those tag titles, which is really cool to see. I feel like now that they have been rebranded from the Viking Raiders to the War Raiders, I feel like this is a really great way to like re-establish them on the main roster as a really great tag team, but also give them an opportunity for tag titles. We end up going back to Joe and Wade, where they have somewhat of a medical update for us on Seth and Bronson. They essentially just saying that Seth Rollins has been taken to a medical facility and he's getting checked over before his match against Bronson at Crown Jewel. Then we end up seeing Adam Pearce and Miz are arguing backstage, and then Final Testament comes in and starts to intimidate Miz, and he's like, what's your plan for the Wyatt Six? And then Carrion is like, look, don't worry about the plan, but you're going to help us find Bo tonight. You're going to help me or I'm going to break your legs. And so Miz is like, okay. And then we end up seeing Jimmy Uso is leaving the arena, and he's looking around for Sami Zayn, but he ends up running into Jimmy, and he's like, have you spoken to Sami yet? And we turn around, and there's like a zoom in shot of Sami being caught talking to Solo. Now, I don't think he's gone out of his way to talk to him in the way that we think. I think, if anything, Solo found Sami, and in that moment he got caught, but Sami's 100% innocent. I don't think he's lining up with the Temu bloodline. I do not think that. Sami's not that kind of guy. I reckon he just got caught in the wrong moment, and I guess we just have to wait and see where this goes. We finally make it to the main event, which is Dominic Mysterio taking on Damian Priest. Now, Dom goes after Damian at the beginning, but then Damian ends up grabbing Dom and throwing him around, and we see a really nice uppercut and big boot coming in from Damian. Damian ends up launching Dom to the floor, but then Dom goes into the barricade, and he ends up sending Damian into the ring post after he flies through the ropes. We go for a commercial break, but when we come back, Dom is trying to secure the three amigos, but but Damien reverses out of this really quickly. He powers up and hits a clothesline onto Dom, and he ends up sending Dom into the ring table as well, like the announce table as well. Judgment Day end up getting involved, and then we end up seeing Damien attack both JD and Carlito as well. Damien ends up hitting them both with chairs as well, and then we end up seeing, because Damien's distracted with the referee or just distracted with Judgment Day, Dom ends up getting a roll-up win and secures the win over Damian Priest. There was a lot that happened after this match. We end up seeing that Damien is super enraged after what had happened. He ends up hitting a razor's edge, and then we end up seeing Damien attack Dom with multiple chair shots, and he's not done. He keeps going like back and forth and back and forth, and he ends up hitting a South of Heaven onto Carlito, and then he grabs Dom from the ring canvas, picks him up by the throat and choke slams him. So it's safe to say that Damien and Dom and the Judgment Day are not done. I know that Damien said a couple of weeks ago he was done with the Judgment Day, but the fact that Dom's now got a win over Damien over something as frivolous as getting caught up with distractions, I feel like Damien's not done quite yet. And that brings us to the end of this week's Monday Night Raw review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you guys for welcoming me back with open arms. As I say, I normally don't like to take time off for doing these reviews, but some things come up and you just can't do both, but that's totally fine. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and like the video, comment something down below that you enjoyed about Raw this week, and while you're there too, you should absolutely subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon next to it. Those are your notifications, and if you do that, you do not miss any future videos from the Outcasted OC. As always, you've got your description down below where you can find the links to Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as all of our personal social medias, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on the channel. As always, you've got your regular NXT review coming in from Reese this week. He may talk about some Halloween Havoc stuff. I'm not 100% sure yet. Then you've got the podcast coming in on Thursday. We're going to go over our Crown Jewel predictions as that show's happening this weekend. And then you've also got the SmackDown review coming in from either G or Ross this week leading into Crown Jewel. I've been Courtney from the Outcasted OC. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye guys.